what I call Crypto 102, right? And the reason why I call it Crypto 102 is because everyone's teaching you Crypto 101 and it's the same shit. And for some reason, you guys, you can't seem to separate how you have to build your own strategies and systems from that. So, Crypto 102, right, is very simple. It's the execution of Crypto 101. It's how to do what you need to do with the information you received from Crypto 101. And we call that do your due diligence. We call that triple D. It's very simple. Do your due diligence, right? Meaning collect all the information, then apply it. But the only way to make this happen is to execute the process, right? So Crypto 102 is where we're going to start here. And this is day one. All right. Very simple. Don't forget to share the live, guys. About to give you some juice here, about to set you up. And the only one responsible for making you successful is yourself, right? And if you're not blessed and you're not supposed to be paid, I'm going to tell you a secret here. If it's not in your destiny, in your stars, in your current life cycle, you'll probably never get anywhere because it's not meant for you. But if you learn that you may not be the person that's able to accomplish these certain things, but other people around you are, and you simply use them to make up for your faults or inabilities, and you will be able to change and move your life destiny in a direction that's more positive. You may not be as wealthy as some of the people that come along and just learn what I teach, but you can alter the video game that you're in and get your character better things. So, I am an individual that is mathematically inclined. I can see patterns. I understand logic. I have no bias. I simply process information like a computer. I don't have any emotions to this. And the reason why I'm a good trader is because this is all mathematical patterns, right? Not patterns that you are taught, mathematical patterns and equations that have to be solved, okay? So I'm going to show you how I solve these. Now, you will never be able to solve these, so I'm going to solve them for you. Then you can take that and simply apply it. Crypto 102, execution. So let's begin here. So first thing we're going to do here is take a look at Bitcoin. And we're going to take a look at execution on what this is. This is a weekly chart. Okay? Very simple, very easy to see. And there is a line here in the middle. And this is from TradingView. It's very simple. In the middle of this line, right, you'll see here, this can be, it's called a zero line, right? Meaning that everything above it, when you see the above it growing up, that's positive. When you see everything going below it, that's negative. Positive, negative. Very simple, right? So what you have to understand is there's only so much money in a market, right? And it's easy to see in crypto because there's a thing called a market cap. 2 trillion, 3 trillion, 1 trillion. And when you see that, you have to be conscious that something isn't going to the moon because the market cap isn't going to the moon. So why would you hold something continuously and watch it go all the way up to exhaustion and then watch it go all the way down because everyone took the money out of the market? And do this month after month, year after year, and sit there and go, why do I have less money, or why don't I have what I want, and why does it keep going down, and when will it just keep going up? The people who teach you to hodl or cost average buy are just fools. Okay? Fools that believe one day the market cap will go from 3 trillion to 100 trillion. Well, it will logically, and the reason why you fall for that is because logically, in the next 100 years, yes, crypto is probably going to see a $50 trillion market cap at some point. Will it be during your lifetime? I don't know. Will it be during the next 10 years? Probably not. But you have to understand that the game that you're in, right? You got to write this down. I am in crypto to make gains and fortune that is wealth to change my life and my family's life. You will not do that if you watch your money triple and then go back to zero, triple and go back to 30%, triple, go back to 30. Man, in that entire period, for instance, in XRP, everyone is holding XRP and saying, okay, I got $1,000 in XRP or $10,000 in XRP. And people have seen that 10,000 turn into 70,000 5 times in the last 5 years. And they held on, and now they're back to 20,000. Had they sold at the peaks, the 10,000 became 20, 30,000, sold. Bought the bottom. 40,000 became 100,000, sold. Bought the bottom. The 100,000 became the 300,000, sold. Bought the bottom. The 300,000 became $1 million, sold. You'd be a millionaire already if you just would have listened to what I told you in 2021. How do I know this? Because I have friends that have hundreds of thousands of dollars in XRP who don't sell when it tops, and they just diamond hand because it's just what they're thinking is that one day crypto will just simply go to 10 trillion and their XRP will one day be at $10. And they're logically correct. It just, I don't know if they're understanding that by getting to that point, they're like, I will have $2 million, $3 million. If you would have sold the tops, you'd already have $1 million, man. So if the goal is to make $1 million, why are you doing it the hard way is all I'm asking. So let me explain to you how this works. There's only so much money and there's only so much profit. And at the end of the day, everyone who bought the coin or the asset is going to sell because that was the entire goal. Market makers don't hodl. And they have hundreds of millions of dollars. You hodl and you have thousands of dollars. Let that sink in. Market makers do not hodl. They have hundreds of millions of dollars. You hodl and you have thousands of dollars. Who do you want to behave like? Who should you implement? Who should you strategize and become more like? You or a market maker? So, that's your decision. This is educational purpose only. Just discussing my opinion on how to and what I do personally in a crypto market, right? So guys, let's start this off. Share the live, guys. What's up, KG Crypto, Kevin Green, Sandesh? What's that, Clinton Schwab? What up, baby? All right, listen, VC Jam, don't forget to share the live. We want to get this rolling. And don't forget to like the live. We're going to build on this, right? So here we go. This is Bitcoin over the periods. And if you go back, it's very simple to see things where you should buy and sell. And everyone's like, yo, VC, how did you know to call the top on Bitcoin back in 2021? Well, it's pretty simple. You see this little blue moon here? All right, this is an indicator that I developed years ago, and I've been fixing it every single year. We always update it. We always make it better. And you can see here that way back in this moment here, right? This little section here. You see how that blue moon, you see this moon here, right? That moon came in. There's a circle right there. There's a blue moon that came in, right? What that tells me, very simply, is that it has hit a moment of exhaustion. Okay, and during that exhaustion, it's just letting me know that the market has run out of money, right? The volume is coming to an end, right? And if we look at the date and we pull this up, this is March 29th, 2021. All right, so let's do this. So March 29th, 21, right? Very simple, very easy. That's March 29th, 2021, right? Now, if we go back to Bitcoin, right? We take a look at this, and I want to show you. I'm going to pull this arrow up here. This is March, okay? That's that same arrow. What this tells me, right? What this tells me, very simple, is that the money has been exhausted, right? Meaning we should be taking profits. It's really that easy. Now, there's another indicator here. This is called a stochastic RSI. This is a moon indicator, right? And I'll show you the VC, making trading easy, moon tracker, volume tracker, my indicator. And then we have the Scotch RSI, stochastic RSI. And those are the two indicators that we have. Very easy, very simple. And with these two indicators, what that basically allows us to do here is two things, okay? A stochastic RSI or an RSI is what we consider a sentiment reader of a market. Do you guys know what sentiment is? Sentiment is what the overall people believe the market is doing, or what the people are doing, right? So the blue line represents buyers. The red line represents exhaustion, and then sellers when they overtake the buyers and head the opposite direction, right? So the sentiment, right? And you can see here, the sentiment at that time in March was already towards the bottom of the decline. Now we're on the weekly here, right? So most people have systems, and I used to teach a free basic system, Rooster, where once the weekly hit the top and started to come down, when it made its first move down, right, which would have happened right here, you can see the sentiment starts to come down, that would right there would indicate the first move of a downward option, right? Meaning that people have been exhausted, and the sentiment is that crypto is, you know, it's all the buyers are gone, right? The majority of the retail investors have slowed. And then you can see right there that it's starting to head down right there. You see that? See that right there? Starting to head down. Now, I'm going to teach you the second thing that you need to know, right? Alex, what up, man? The second thing you need to know is this. So first thing is this. Volume is king by VC. The second thing you need to know is 1, 2, 3. Right? 1, 2, 3. What is 1, 2, 3? 1, 2, 3 is a very simple thing. There is always a move. That's 1. There is always confirmation of the move and statistics and details. That's 2. And 3 is the trade and opportunity that you want to get into. Okay? So, what that means is, in crypto, you are always moving on the third move. 1, 2, 3. Right? 1 is possibility. 2 is data of the strength of the possibility. And 3 is your opportunity, right? So when you do trading, understand, right, that the basics of trading is going to be everything that you guys have seen on YouTube, everything that you guys have heard from people who claim to be great charters, right? All the philosophies and everything that you're doing is going to come around these two things. It's the only things you need to know. And if you know these two things, then moving forward, you will understand how to decipher all the Crypto 101 information so that you can move to Crypto 102, which is where you start to learn to execute, right? That's simple. So, first move, number one, right? Second is data on the move, volumes. Number three is execution, right? So let me explain this in a way that you can understand some videos that you've seen. A lot of times, move one is before someone makes a trade, they'll want to see what's called a breakout, right? Which is normally the first step is to break out of resistance, right? The top level resistance. Break resistance or break support. Either way, it's a change of direction or change of a particular sideways move or a channel. That's number one. Number two is confirmation of this move, which is normally the retesting of the support, right? Or the resistance. So when it breaks resistance, it touches resistance. And then the third move is that when you buy that resistance, you're buying the next move, which is the third move up. Because by retesting resistance, it has proven to you that it has decided to make a move in the other direction. Just like when it breaks support and it comes back up, if it rejects off support and starts to head down, then you have confirmation that it is going into a short position or it's pulling back further. If it breaks through resistance and retests it and starts to move up, then you have confirmation that this is looking to make a higher high, right? So those are the two things. Nazar, what up, man? Haven't seen you in a minute. What up, Stone? Alex. So what that is, man, what's up, brother? So those are 1, 2, 3s, right? 1 is a possible trade. 2 is confirmation of the trade. 3 is the trade that you want to get into, right? Now, the thing about that is having a 1, 2, 3 allows you to not jump ahead, what they call front run a trade. It allows you to be patient and say, okay, I'm going to wait for this to happen. And a lot of times when you do see a number one that does break resistance, a lot of times it doesn't retest, it breaks through. All depends on market conditions, right? Just like when it breaks support, it breaks through and keeps running up. All depends on market conditions, right? So all these things that happen always come back to the lesson that I just told you, which was number one, which was volume is king by VC, right? Volume is king. Volume will let you know what 1, 2, 3 option is actually more favorable to happen versus the other, right? So anytime you have something happening, you need to have confirmation of something happening, and then you need to have data to decipher what you should do at that time, right? But the first part of this game is simply to have a strategy that allows you to have an ideal of what you're going to do. And when something happens, how you're going to do it, and then how you're going to execute it, right? So, for instance, the thing would be if it's going sideways in a channel and you're going long, you're going to wait for it to break resistance. Then you're going to put your buy order on the resistance line that it broke, and when it retests, that's your entry, and then you're hoping it goes up. I said hoping because it's all hope, because you more than likely, you're like 99% of the people out there, you don't have the information on volume is king in order to decipher or move the odds in your favor, right? You want to be playing the odds, right? Law of average. The law of average is every time something breaks resistance and it retests, how many times does it retest and then go up? It's about 4 to 6 times, which is really only 50%. you need to move those odds or those law of averages into your favor, where it's more like 80, 70, 80, 90%. So that way you don't get caught in bad trades. You can increase your wins in trading, right? So if you're a trader and you need to write this down, but you need to track every 10 trades I do, how many do I win and how many do I lose? And if you're 50-50, that's about normal for all traders. So you're not bad, you're just 90% of everyone. Good traders, right? What they do is, out of the 50-50, is they lose less money and their gains are even bigger. So their entries are better, and they understand that they have certain systems where losses are less and wins are better, right? And that's how they become profitable. They've learned that they can only win 4 out of 10 trades on average, but they learned that when they lose 6 trades, they only lose 15%, and when they win an average of 50. So at the end of the day, when you take 6 trades at 15%, that's simply going to be 90% in losses. But if you take 4 trades at 50%, that's 200, which means what? You've doubled your bag. So if you can win 4 out of 6 trades and win 50% on your trade, and your losses are only 15% losses, then you have 100%ed your bag out of 10 trades. So if you have $10,000 and you're trading $1,000 on 10 different trades, at the end of the 10 trades, you will be up $1,000 because you will 100% the bag, and your bags are $1,000 per trade. Sounds crazy, sounds reckless, but at the end of the day, if you can make 10 trades in a week and you have a $10,000 budget and you make $1,000, you can say, well, man, most people go to work and work all week to make $1,000, and all I did was trade. And this is where people develop the strategies, that how they trade off support and resistance, and then Fibonacci lines, and then they created a system of how to lose less to ensure that they make at least $1,000 a week. You understand? So those are systems and strategies. Those I've already made videos on, but we're going to cover that in Crypto 102 as well. But right now, I want you to understand the basics. What you have to understand is the game that you're playing, and the crypto game that you're in, is very simple. Volume is king by VC, and 1, 2, 3, right? Volume is king, 1, 2, 3, right? That's it. Volume is king, 1, 2, 3. Cha, cha, cha. Very simple. All right, so now once you have those two concepts in your brain, and that's what you put on, take a little sticky note, put it on your computer and write Volume is king by VC. Then put 1, 2, 3. So every time you're looking at a chart, every time you're determining how you're going to make a trade, every time you're thinking about what you're doing, you're going to remember that volume is king, which is going to determine what direction the trade is going. And more importantly, you're going to know that there's a 1, 2, 3 move happening, and the only part you're going to get into is the 3, right? You're going to get the confirmation of a move, you're going to get the retesting of a move, you're going to learn that volume, which way it's going, and then you're going to make your decision on your trade, right? That's simple, right? So let's take a look at this, right? So taking a look here, we can see that in March, we have these moves. And I'm going to go back here. This is March 29, 2021. How did I know the top was there, right? Very simple. You see right here this orange line? This orange line came in, and I can see that on this move here, right? See this bigger move that happened? This is what I'm talking about. These are channels, right? So down here, you had a channel, right? Very simple. A channel is simply sideways movement, right? Breaker blocks, etc., all these good things. But this is simply a channel. And then right now you can see there was a breaker block right here. This blue box is simply a breaker block, right? So this is what I just explained to you how trading works, right? And once you understand the game that you're playing, once you understand what all the characters and all the cast is doing and everyone else is doing and retail is doing, then you can piece together an ideal of what you can do and a strategy that you're going to repeat. Steps 1, 2, and 3, right? A strategy that has 1, 2, and 3. What are we at? 1, 2, and 3 by VC, right? Who's king? Volume is king. Why? By VC. 1, 2, 3 by VC. What plan am I in? Crypto 102, right? Now, when you break this down, this is a channel right here. I'm on the weekly time frame. I can see that in this channel, right, there's a top, there's a bottom, and this starts to move in that direction. Now, the philosophies are very simple. When you see something break out of a channel, you then look for the retest in order to make a trade, which would be this retesting and then going down, right? Now, unfortunately, when it came back up to retest, it didn't reject, it actually continued up, right? Meaning that if you were making that trade, this would have been a losing trade for you because you would have expected, since it broke its support system, that it would go down, right? But it bounced all the way back to the top before it decided to then make the real move down, which happens on the next move, right? So once again, the retest of support or resistance isn't really a strategy that you can count on, because a lot of times it'll break through that and it'll retest a lower level or a different line, right? In this case, it broke back through support, it went up to resistance, and then it had a massive pullback. How would you know where to take advantage of this particular move, right? Well, if we're going back here, right, I'm going to show you right here. Look at this indicator here. This indicator, once again, is called the VC volume indicator, right? And you can see right here as the VC indicator starts to move up, right? And you can see right here on the stochastic RSI, right here, we can see a couple things happen. One is the stochastic RSI is showing you that right here, that the people have exhausted, right? At this point, money has exhausted from the position, which means we should be looking for the final push. We should be looking for the next move. What's up, LXRY? What up, man? We should be sailing. We should be looking for the move that's going to happen and then go into the move that is already being printed by the RSI. What seconds the RSI, right? That's move number one, right? Move number one is sentiment, is that it's exhausted. Move number two, you can see right here on the moon indicator, is that we start to go down on the moon indicator right here. So when this happens, right, we can see that our moon indicator is starting to go down, and I'm going to write this here. And this happens on the 24th of February, 2020. February 24th, 2020. But all that happened here was our moon indicator simply said that the volume was gone. That is it, right? LXRY, baby. And when that happened, that simply, with the other information of our RSI heading down, we now know that we're in an exhausted situation, which means you got to get rid of your crypto there. So with those two things happening, right? With those two things, you know, happening at that moment, if we go back here and we know that those two things are happening, right? When we see this area here have rejection, right? You see how it rejects off the resistance right there. Then on this next very candle, we know that we now have volume disappearing and the relative strength or the sentiment of the trade disappearing, which means at this point you would get into a trade of a short position at this level, which would be right here. And you would then ride that down to whatever target or whatever you're thinking. But that is how you determine that this was not the right down, but this one over here was right here, right? You see that? That's simple, right? Now let's look at what happened here, right? Very simple. 1, 2, 3, right? And we take a look and see the movements that we're having right here, right? So based on the data, what we have, there's the 1, 2, 3 movements, right? And if you look here, you can see that you have a down that broke through the support. That's a 1. It bounced up and it found resistance. That's the 2. And then everything laid into the next move for you, which was the lack of volume and the lack of sentiment, which created this huge downside, right? Which would have been a beautiful trade to get into, because that trade was worth 136%. So you could have doubled your money on that one trade had you been in there. Now, with that being said, let's move on to the next option here, where crypto has a little bit more. So now, as you look at these moves, right, you can see that what we like to see is 2 breaks, right? So remember 1, 2, 3, right? Always keep that in mind. I can see that it broke through support right there. That's 1. 2 is right here, right? It broke through support a second time, which means what? I just told you that you make your trades on the 3rd move. So that 2 moves let me know at that time that I should be looking for the reversal, right? Very simple. Now, on the reversal, okay, looking for a 1, 2, 3, okay, you have a 1, which you see the beginning of a reversal. It goes back up and touches the resistance again. The second move is the pull down. That's move number 2. Now, move number 2 is where we collect data, right? We're collecting data. And the data is this, right? How far does the move come back, right? There's a strategy called Elliott waves, right? Hit ones in the chat if you've ever heard of Elliott waves. And Elliott waves suggests that when a move happens, which is wave number 1, right? They call them waves. That wave number 2 is normally 50% of wave number 1, which is a pullback, right? So we can see here that from this move, this is about an 85% move. What up, Cowboys? Right? Now we can expect a pullback on this. So let's say 890. So we expect a 45% pullback, right? Which means that a pullback would come down to this level here. Okay? So the expected pullback would be to this level here. Okay, that yellow line. That's the expected pullback. Okay? Now, if that data that we know is there lets us know we have a pullback target, right? If that target doesn't reach its hit and more volume, right? This is how you can look at just seeing a chart, right? Without having my indicator, without having all the stuff that we have. This is just common sense, right? KG Crypto, baby. Boy, you want to be a legend, you better hang in there, bro. I'm talking sauce here, man. I'm giving away a $10,000 lesson. You better step in and get to clicking, brother. So when you see this, you're going to realize here that it doesn't reach its rejection mode or its pullback of the second wave, right? Which normally what that's going to do for you is let you know that it might not be the first full wave 1, or the volume might be picking up so much that it's not allowing the normal average pullback to happen, which happens 80% of the time, well, probably 90. But that means that this is confirming what you are looking at is that there's a push to the upside, right? So when we see this happen, we would then look for the move to the other side, which we can see here. There's some green candles happening. That would put you in a position where you would then start to say, okay, I'm going to get into a long position here and make my move on the third wave, right? 1, 2, 3, right? Now let's put this in and go look at the value, right? So you can understand. So when we take this and we use this strategy that's very simple called relative strength index and the volume situations here, we can simply look at the volume, and right here I'm going to show you. Notice here that on our weekly volume, right, we can see the volume start to turn, and right here is where we start to see volume actually start to head up, right? This is volume starting to head up, and it coincides with the relative strength index starting to head up, right? Which normally would suggest that after having such a big pull down and so much exhaustion, right? Because this is a lot of red over here, right? A lot of red. That when this starts to move up, right? And let me show you, let me teach you something. One move to the top, move number 2 is a pullback, and then wave number 3 is your long, right? 1, 2, 3. So if you're watching this, you can see that you had a push to the top, then there was a pullback, and then this is more than likely a third move up, which you should be considering to actually get into. Now I'm going to turn this one here. We're going to turn these gray. And we're going to go take a look at this chart here. And you can see that right at that moment, that would have produced the opportunity to get into this long at this position, right? Beautiful long, beautiful position. You guys could have did very well here, and that would have sparked off. Imagine buying Bitcoin at $6,800. I mean, I'm just saying, imagine it, right? So now let's run this through, and let's go where we do what we call a confirmation of a 1, 2, 3, right? So let's say that you don't see this as a 1, 2, 3 and you kind of miss it. Let's move to the next one, right? So here we take this as the reversal, the bounce, right? There's a bounce from the bottom. It starts to head up on this gray movement here. Goes up. We look for a retracement or a pullback, which happens here, right? And then when that starts to go up, that is considered the third move again, right? 1, 2, 3 worth of value, okay? Very easy, very simple, right? And that allows you to get this other trade in. Now, how do we know, like, and here's your sentiment, right? See how the sentiment starts to move down? Right here, you can see sentiment starts to head back up again right here where people start buying again. Now, if you're paying attention to this on the weekly, you can see right here, that is the trigger point to the entry that we were just looking at, is when the RSI starts to bend up. How do we confirm that them bending, what up, D? How do we confirm them bending up is actually the time to get into? Dizzy, what up, man? That's the time to be rolling in here and getting into this trade, is that we can look at our volume indicator, and on our volume indicator, we can now see that the volume indicator is starting to move up right here, right? Which is the gray candle of that move, which once again puts us in at this entry point right here, right? So those are all the ways that you could have taken advantage of the trade and got yourself into the early position, right? Another thing is, if you're looking at a whole move and you want to see this volume go green, right here how it goes green. When the volume goes green and make its pullback, right? Sometimes we look at something, if you want more confirmation, you can do a push all the way to green positive right here. Then the pullback of that green positive is here, and then you run into where it starts to move back up, which is right here. And this becomes another entry point for you to get into, so that you know that you're getting in this. So it all comes down to how many confirmations do you want, right? Sometimes we like to see 2 confirmations of volume to reinforce that this is a stronger trade, so there won't be so much pullback, right? And what we'll do here is we'll take a look overall on these options that you had. So the first option was this first move entry here, right? Now this could normally, after a big pullback like that, because it was such a massive pullback, there's only so much people can sell. So this one, just by knowing that in your mind that the volume has to return here, you would have made that entry if you're a seasoned trader, okay? If you're not a seasoned trader, you would wait for the breakout. You see how it doesn't break support, the resistance here? Remember, the people that are trading are teaching you one thing. If it breaks resistance, then it retests, then we enter. So the trade that everyone's waiting for, right now, I'll show you how this all worked out, is this one right here. This is where it breaks resistance, then it retests resistance, and it starts to move up. And this is why this became the biggest move of the trade, is because this is where the fundamentals or the philosophies of 98% of the people that learn how to trade on YouTube understand what they need to do. They needed this to break resistance, then they needed it to retest resistance, and after it retested resistance and it broke resistance again, which happened here, this is where everyone started buying, because that is confirmation to the trade strategy that they've all learned on TikTok, YouTube, or wherever, how to trade this trade. And that's why you've seen the bigger explosion on that trade, is because now, hi everyone, what up, D? Now you understand that you're in the position of you're trading with the highest momentum, because you're trading with the strategy that everyone is literally waiting for. They're waiting for it to break the resistance, retest the resistance for support, and then when it starts to move up from there, that's the time they enter, okay? That's retail investors getting into the trade, where market makers are getting into the trade once it shows that there's money coming into the play, which is where we see here. This first gray line here is the market makers setting up their trade. And they make their first move right here. This is the market maker move right here. They make their first move by putting their money in. And then when there's a retest, they see how much support it gets. And we can see that it doesn't pull back 50% here on this move. It actually holds, which means retail starting to set the price that they will pay for. And then the money makers on this candle put the rest of their money in to get that next push above resistance to trigger 98% of the traders to then create FOMO, which is on the retest. They then, once they hit that retest, they then put the third option in, which is their third buy, the market makers, and they create this push up again. And then all you guys FOMO in, and all they do is take profit all the way up, because they have now taught you how you are supposed to get in this trade. Now, what we teach is how to get in on the market makers section and the money section, so that you get bigger gains and you're in where the money is even bigger, while explaining to you how to execute along the way on basic trades that are already what everyone else is doing. So this right here, guys, is very simple Crypto 102. So I hope that made sense. I hope that all came to you guys. We're gonna pull this video here. We're gonna post it on our YouTube. I don't like things to go too far, because then ADHD kicks in and you guys forget how to, watch a full video. So I'm going to save this video here. This is Crypto 102, right? Execution of all the Crypto 101 knowledge that you know. So I'm going to save this stream here, and we're going to come back. We're going to come back and we're going to do another video taking from this position moving forward to teach you guys the other things that are happening. Okay, so